Continuing with my video series on point of view, I want to talk about the most difficult perspective to pull off, which is second person point of view. Second person is when you use the pronouns you, your, and yours. And when you do that, your reader becomes that main character, that protagonist who's doing, thinking, and acting everything. And that can be really powerful. An example of this is, despite the coolness of the air above the water, sweat beads in the crevices of your palms. You grasp the metal wire, willing the swaying bridge to still. Spray from the cascading rapids below coats your skin, your clothes, and the bridge beneath your sneakers in a wet mist. The bridge swings higher. In this passage, the reader is that you character. They are the person on the swinging bridge with the sweaty palms. This can be a really powerful thing. It can also be difficult to pull off. This is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping writers like you transform your writing so it lingers with readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. Let's talk about the pros of second person point of view. When a writer really wants the reader to experience their story and become a part of it, second person is a great choice. The reader gets to be the character. They get to be the decision maker. And this is particularly important and useful in games. The storylines for video games, board games, and choose your own adventure stories are really second-person stories. Gamers want to not only be that character, they want to be the decision maker and have a tangible effect on the story itself. That's why they're playing a video game and not just reading a regular book or watching a movie. They want to participate. Games that don't really have that second person perspective where a character other than the one the gamer is playing is the central character and the decision maker often fail because gamers want to be that decision maker. They want to be the main character of that story. The second most common use of second person is in short literary fiction and erotica. That's because second person has the richest sensory detail experience for the reader. Again, because the reader is that character. That means they are experiencing the story. So when you say it's cold, they feel that cold. When you say their palms are sweating, their palms are sweaty. Self-Help by Lori Moore asks its readers to walk in the shoes of the characters. So it's letting the reader know up front that you're going to be experiencing life as someone else. And that's why second person works so well in that collection of short stories. In How to Be the Other Woman, the reader gets to experience what it's like to be the mistress to a married man. For example, after 4 months, 3 concerts, and 2.5 museums, you sleep with him. It seems the right number of cultural events. On the stereo, you play your favorite harp and oboe music. He tells you his wife's name. It is Patricia. When he says, "How do you feel about that?" don't say ridiculous or get the hell out of my apartment. Say, it depends. What is intellectual property law? Here, the reader is the mistress, and the author is telling them how they would act and think if they were this particular character. Moore isn't pretending, the reader actually is this character. Erotica has a similar effect. When readers read erotica in second person, they get to experience and live their sexual fantasies without putting themselves at risk. They're not risking heartbreak, and they're not risking physical consequences like STDs or something. They get to have that rich sensory experience from the safety of their home. Second person point of view is all about the reader being that character and experiencing the story for themselves. Examples of successful second person point of view stories are Self-Help by Lori Moore, which is a collection of short literary stories. If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italo Calvino. Bright Lights, Big City by Jay McInerney, and those last 2 are full-length novels. And How to Babysit a Grandpa by Jean Reagan and illustrated by Lee Wildish. That last one is a picture book. What this variety of examples shows is second person isn't limited to games, short fiction, and erotica. It can be useful in any genre for any age group, as long as you are using it for its benefits and are wary of its consequences. So let's talk about the cons of second person point of view. I've already mentioned that second person is one of the most difficult points of view to pull off. The reason for that is the same thing as its benefit. The reader is the character. You have to come up with a character that your readers want to be and who they want to stick with and experience for the duration of your story. That can be really difficult when you're trying to have a character arc. If your character becomes too different from the beginning and from the reader themselves, it can be off-putting and jar them out of the story, and therefore they don't like it and stop reading. So you have to find this balance between developing your character and keeping your character relatable to everyone. Your character really needs to be universal. You don't want your reader thinking on page 2, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't think that. So you have to find a way to immerse them in this character without it seeming like you are changing who they are. Along those same lines, people just don't like being told what to do. And when you write in second person, you're literally telling them what they're doing, thinking, and saying in that story. That can be really off-putting to some people, especially people who are new to the second person point of view. The longer the story, the more difficult this becomes because you're going to have a larger character arc and your reader is going to be immersed in the second person perspective for longer, and it can start to get annoying and the character can change too much. For example, if your character is descending into madness or becoming a villain, they might shoot a child. Not a lot of readers want to be child murderers. So that's not going to appeal to them and it's going to jar them out of the story and make them stop reading. Second person is one of the most unforgiving points of view. If you don't do it perfectly, it doesn't work. You really have to address and eliminate these cons in order for second person to work for your reader. Otherwise, it's just too jarring and too off-putting. I want to leave you with a few cautions from an editor regarding second person point of view. First, it's rare for a reason. It's just a challenge. It's difficult to do. Be aware of that. Be self-aware of your story and know when it's working and when it's not. I have read and written many pieces in second person. Most of them did not have the qualities necessary for publication. I was aware of this with my own pieces and I noticed it with others as well. Second person is often considered experimental. Experiments don't always work. They're not always successful. So know when you're experimenting with writing and it's working and when you're experimenting and it's not. However, I wouldn't say never write second person. One, I don't believe in putting writers in boxes. Like in Pirates of the Caribbean, the rules of writing are more guidelines. There are situations when it's okay to break them, but you do need to learn and master them before you can understand when those situations are occurring in your own writing. Also, second person is necessary for things like video games. If I told writers never use second person point of view, I'm doing those game writers a disservice because they need to be able to think in that second person point of view when they're creating their stories. And if nothing else, it's a great test of your writing skills. Try writing a short story or a scene in second person and see what it does for your character. See what it does for the story as a whole. It can teach you something new, or it might be really good and you want to continue with it. I also want to let you know there is a stigma against second person in the publishing industry. That's because it's difficult to pull off. So publishers, agents, and editors read a lot of not very good second person, which means when they see a story is written in second person, it's automatically dinged in their mind, whether they're conscious of that or not. So you have to have an excellent second person story to be able to get it published if you're going the traditional route. At the end of the day, the decision on whether or not to use second person is up to you. You're the author, it's your story, you know what's best for it. Just be aware of the pros and cons of second person and the other points of view so you can make the best decision for your story. What are your thoughts on second person? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please like below. And subscribe to Ignited Ink Writing for more videos like this. Videos that explore the pros and cons of different aspects of writing, like point of view. And help you transform your writing so it lingers with readers, because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkWriting.com. There you will also find a chart comparing the points of view, their definitions, pros, and cons. Alright, now it's your turn. Try out second person to see how it can help you ignite your ink.